Today on the Uncommon Connector, we are interviewing President County Commissioner Reuben Collins. He has been a 4-time elected official of Charles County, and we're interested to hear his perspective today on education, how he got to become county commissioner, and his road to success.
There is no one else in creation like you. There's nobody like you. And what you've come to do and what you have to offer is like no other.
Good morning. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and the work that you do?
My name is Reuben Collins. I'm a lawyer. I'm also the president of the Charles County Board of Commissioners.
And could you tell us a little bit about how you got started in that position, a little bit about where you came from?
Well, I was originally a resident of the District of Columbia. My family moved to Charles County when I was very young. For the duration of my time in school, I was involved in various forms of student government. I was a class officer from middle school through high school, and I was eventually elected as student government president my senior year in high school. So I've always had an interest in government per se. I wanted to be a lawyer early on. I view the law as a vehicle to assist you in learning how things actually operate, how you're able to make things happen. That was always something important to me. I wanted to be a part of solving potential problems and issues, and I wanted to understand the process in whatever I did. So I like really merging an interest in government and understanding that the law is a tool to assist you. That really kind of got me on the course that I'm in.
Very good. How long have you worked in this industry?
Well, I've been a practicing lawyer since 1997. I was first elected in 2006. This is my 4th term as a commissioner. The last 2 terms I've been the president of the Board of Commissioners. So it's actually 4 terms.
Very good.
The interesting thing about the law is there's really not a required focus as an undergraduate. I mean, you don't have to be, for example, like an engineer, or you don't have to commit yourself to any particular curriculum as a lawyer. In undergrad, my degree was in political science and public administration. Because again, I was tying a lot of that to government services, but there's really no required course. Because the process of actually going to law school requires you to take basically an entry exam. And that exam includes like math, it includes English, science. So it really doesn't benefit you necessarily to be like like an expert in any particular field.
Oh, what's the name of that exam?
That is the you have the SAT and what is the
LSAT.
LSAT, yes. It's been a while.
No worries.
But yes, the LSAT, that is the exam that you're required to take. Surprisingly, during the time that I've been a lawyer, there's been efforts to really kind of reduce the significance of the LSAT. And some states now are even looking at changing how the bar exam is administered. So, and they're pushing the idea, moving towards, like, instead of taking a bar exam, you actually get credit for training on the job, like they did in the real old days. You didn't have a bar, but you would have to train under a practicing lawyer, and once you've reached a certain level of expertise, then you could actually practice yourself. But anybody that's interested in the law, I mean, the LSAT, well, first off, you would have to graduate from an accredited university. And taking the LSAT would be the next step, assuming that your test scores are good enough. You would be considered for various law schools, and you can go to law school for 3 years or 4 years, depending on your focus. 3 years is generally, that is like where you're going full time. 4 years is if you're going part time. I completed law school in 3 years. So anyone listening, if you add it all up, basically you need 4 years in undergrad and then 3 years for an advanced degree to get a Juris Doctorate or a Doctor of Law. I would say the job experience, but certainly your education is critical. I mean, I think what education does, it provides a path for you, and it expands the potential knowledge and your knowledge base. So in many ways they go hand in hand, but I think you should never view yourself as being educated. You should never view yourself as, okay, I'm an expert in a particular area, because I think that's where you start reaching a point where you sell yourself short, because you want to always put yourself in a position where, okay, I want to learn as much as I can. I want to continue to advance my knowledge in a particular subject area. I was first licensed in 1997. And since that time, what I've seen is, especially from younger lawyers, and it's something that I actually encourage them to do, and that is to find a specific area of the law and become an expert. An example of a very specific area may be, sports law. Building an expertise in understanding all aspects of the sport industry or sports. It could be as specific as Major League Baseball or the NFL, because having an expertise is critical to assisting you in becoming, in whatever field of endeavor you're in, an actual expert, and that distinguishes you. So, and people will actually come to you as an expert, and that's something, in hindsight, and looking at the development of my career, I wish I had fully understood that. I mean, because my practice is a general practice. I mean, I do a lot of business transactions. I do estate planning. I do some criminal law. What I don't do is bankruptcy, and I don't do family law. But But in most other areas, I've built a pretty solid general practice. But the key to that, and I really want to stress this, you don't want to start exploring and doing work that you really don't have the actual expertise to appropriately represent whoever your client is. You don't want to do that, no matter how much money it is. And I can tie where I've seen myself be successful to not only the practice of law, but even in my efforts as an elected official, and that's to build consensus and collaboration. With our form of government, Charles County's form of government, decisions that impact the entire county must be voted upon. And we have a 5-member board, and you have to have a majority of the board to approve, as an example, our budget, to approve, the hiring and firing of our high-ranking officials. So you have to build consensus, and that is critical to being a successful lawyer as well. What people don't fully appreciate about lawyers, 90% of our work is actually done negotiating. And it's really a small percentage of time that's actually in the courtroom. So you're constantly working towards building consensus. And that requires a level of expertise to really understand the significance of collaboration, because at the end of the day, that's the goal. I mean, attorneys are called counselors and attorneys, and a lot of the work is in the realm of counseling, trying to build a consensus. Critical to our everyday operations. And what we find, and statistics will show, where young people are knowledgeable of their elected officials, they tend to be those officials in the highest office. So most people know who the President of the United States is. Many know who their representation is in Congress, but fewer know who their local officials are, even their state officials. I mean, most people simply don't know, but the local and state representation is critical, because the local level determines, the level of taxes that you pay. Property taxes, income taxes, these are things that are impacted directly by who is in office on the local level and the state level. And I don't think most of us fully appreciate that. And that's why it's important to take time to see what's going on. Even, something as mundane as Charles County Commissioner meetings. We are making decisions on a daily basis that impacts people's lives. Where roads are constructed, how the county uses your tax dollars. Those are decisions that are made in this building by 5 individuals. And your influence is based on 2 things: advocacy and voting. Because if you vote, you are a participant, but you also assist the process in becoming an advocate. And that means being knowledgeable of what's going on in the county. That requires a little homework, but you gain tremendous dividends by being a knowledgeable citizen. Just looking at what is on the agenda for Charles County government, at the timing of this taping, we are preparing for a fiscal year 2026 budget. And we will be talking about funding for public education, public safety. We will be talking about funding for parks and recreation. These are things that our residents are interested in, but many are clueless that you actually, as an individual, you can actually have an impact on the process. And that's something that only a handful of people fully appreciate. If you come in this building, generally speaking, you have a handful of residents that will be here and participate in almost all of our meetings. You know, they are fully engaged, they understand, they look to see what's on the agenda, but most of our residents are clueless. And I think, if nothing else coming out of this, I think really encouraging people to just see what's going on, because you'd be surprised. Two things will happen. You'll see that decisions are not made in a vacuum. And the second thing you'll learn is that this type of work is not the easiest thing on earth, because your decisions are scrutinized. And the easiest thing on earth to be is a critic. But one of the most difficult things is to be a responsible person in a position of leadership that are making decisions that impact people's lives. And that's, in a nutshell, that's whether you're on the local level, state level, or federal level, that's what you're doing on a regular basis. And that may require voting on a subject that is contentious. I know that it will divide the board, but part of my responsibility is to try to garner support, especially when it matters and is reflected in subject areas that are important to me. Like, for me, housing, affordable housing is extremely important. Everyone on my board does not look at affordable housing from the same perspective that I do. Some people may have more of an interest in other areas that have an impact on our citizens. My job as president is to try to garner support and to build a majority on whatever subject may be. And when there is a contentious issue, to try to develop a level of collaboration between the board. And it's not always easy, but I feel like, because of my background as a lawyer, I think that has helped me to be an effective president of the Board of Commissioners.
Into this area and resources that the incoming residents of Charles County will need based on the growth at such a fast rate.
Well, what I want to make clear is the growth that you see in Charles County is planned growth. And if you look at the locations where you're seeing the growth, it's actually a part of a contract that was put in place in the 1970s. It's called Docket 90. And it is literally a contract that foresaw growth and development in the Waldorf area and extending to White Plains. This was part of, again, a plan that is over 50 years old. What you're seeing now is seeing that plan reaching that point where it's almost upon conclusion. But it was something that was put in place, long before many of us were even aware that that's what was going on. The county operates recognizing the importance of smart growth, which means that our development is in very specific areas of the county where you actually have the infrastructure to maintain growth on any level. And that's why you see the concentration in Charles County, in the Waldorf area, and in our municipalities. The municipalities in Charles County are the town of Indian Head and the town of La Plata. And those areas were specifically addressed as growth areas because the county also operates under a 10-year plan that's called the Comprehensive Plan. And so the Comprehensive Plan really dictates where our growth will be. If you travel to some parts of the western side of the county, those areas like where I grew up, the Bryans Road area, Indian Head, those areas look exactly the same that they did, 40 years ago. because of a couple of things. One, those aren't primary growth areas. And secondly, because of the topography of the county, those areas are mostly wetlands and swamps. And you could not develop on those areas anyway. So what you see in Charles County is very specific growth. Nearly half of the entire county's landscape is subject to, programs that ensure that that land will never be developed. They're in areas that specifically, some is federal land and some is state land that will never be developed. So when people say that the county is growing so fast, this is a county of 170,000 people plus. In comparison to Prince George's County is nearly 1 million people. Montgomery County is 1.4 million people. Baltimore County, Howard County, these are counties that are over 500,000 people. Charles County will never be that large, and we are seeing growth here that is consistent with being one of the top 2 counties in the entire state. But what I try to stress to people is the county will never be a large county. And the growth that we're seeing is really the result of what is called Docket 90. And we're seeing the closeout of Docket 90. Overall state economy. And I think things that are being put in place right now will grow significantly and will provide dividends for not only the local economy, but the state economy as well. A specific project is on the western side of the county. The county has designated an area in the 210 corridor as a technology corridor. And that is the result of efforts inside the base in Indian Head and outside the base. Several organized efforts have been put in place to make sure that technology will really be advanced in that area because of the mission at Indian Head on the base. A very specific mission is addressing, issues related to bomb technology. It's called energetics. That's the specific term that's used. And what we're seeing is an interest from private contracting firms and firms that work directly with the federal government. And they're interested in coming to the county. And it's had an impact in these early stages on our local economy. We're seeing more small businesses move to the county. So I am excited about just the things that I'm seeing. We had a presentation by our Economic Development Department last week showing the growth and the type of energy that we're seeing from these new employers that have traditionally not looked at Charles County. The other thing I'd like to add, because it has an impact on economic development, is the county has prioritized a project that's called Southern Maryland Rapid Transit. It is essentially a project that will construct a light rail line that starts in White Plains, and that line will connect to the Green Line in Prince George's County. It's been the county's priority for over a decade. When I first started working on it, it was almost like a pipe dream because we simply weren't getting the support and funding on the state level. But since the time I've been president, we've seen a tremendous increase in the support for this. Not only were we able to get designated funding from the state, but the state passed a law in 2021 which required that as long as the county, as long as the state continues to fund this and the federal government provides matching funds, this will be a part of state law where it's required to be funded. And I'm bringing this up because the most recent budget that was passed by our legislature included $20 million, 10 from the state and 10 from the federal government to go towards funding for the critical environmental studies, and they're called NEPA studies. Whenever you have large infrastructure projects, you have to go through this federal process, and we've secured the funding to begin that process. What that means for economics is it provides an additional tool for our workforce. It provides an additional way for our residents to commute. It will help to reduce the gridlock that we see on 301 and 210. And in addition, it will positively impact the environment because it will reduce the number of vehicles that are driving. And so that is really critical. And that is part of, what I see in the next 5 years. Now, the rail will not be constructed in 5 years, but we're moving towards seeing the results of even having that as part of our planning, because we also, at the same time, we developed the planning for Southern Maryland Rapid Transit. We also changed the zoning in an area that's called the Waldorf Redevelopment Corridor. And that zoning change provided a little more density to make it similar to like the type of housing and activity you see like in Alexandria or areas like that. So the future of the county will be bright, and I think we will be a player on the state level in terms of what we bring in terms of economic activity. And you go through the various departments. Most of the planning you will see under our largest department, which is called Planning and Growth Management. You can find the studies that I mentioned. You'll find more information on Southern Maryland Rapid Transit. You'll find information regarding zoning and shifts and changes in zoning. To learn more about economic development, the Economic Development Department has a website that is very detail oriented. It helps our residents understand where the major projects are. All the ones that I listed, I talked about the technology corridor. I talked about the urban redevelopment corridor in Waldorf. These are major projects that the county is excited about, but you can learn about all of that activity on our website. And if you look throughout history, commissioners ran the gamut. Some were farmers, some were, like architects. The answer to your question is that there's no specific certification. What would benefit you as a commissioner would be having an interest directly in the community and staying tied to the heartbeat of what's going on in our community. I've challenged several people, and I'm confident in saying this. I am the first county commissioner that was an actual lawyer. That may seem surprising to people. So I feel even more comfortable saying that certainly in modern time. But I've gone back and I've not seen an example of, any lawyers that were county commissioners. And I think that's part of like the tradition, because commissioners generally it's considered a part-time job. And because of conflicts that exist as it relates to being a lawyer, that's probably limited a lot of people from even considering doing it. And there's not your compensation is not substantial because it's considered a part-time position, with the exception of the commissioner president. The commissioner president is considered a full-time position, but the salary, I mean, it would be challenging for you to purchase a home in Charles County on the strength of a commissioner salary, just to put it in perspective. You cannot look at it as if, okay, I'm gonna make money off of this. You have to look at it as public service. Everyone, unfortunately, because of responsibilities, may not have the ability to take on the role of being a commissioner because like I said, it just salary-wise, but at the end of the day, it's public service. I've done it. I know I could have made a lot more money practicing law, but I love this community and I wanted to commit myself to making the community better, and I feel like I've done that,
Thank you for your transparency. That was very, very insightful.
I'd like to show more appreciation for the time that I've committed to this stuff. I want to show more of a commitment to my wife, because the other side of being a public official is you're always in public, and that is not necessarily limited to just you as an individual and how being in the public all the time impacts you. Any criticism, it directly impacts my family. I understand it, I get it. I don't have any problem with criticisms coming at me. I'm used to it because I realize that's the territory that I'm operating in. But it's not as easy on your family members. It's not easy for your family to hear someone speak negatively about like your father or your husband, and I just want to be able to show more of appreciation to let my family know, and my wife in particular, that I appreciate it, her supporting this work, because it's a commitment. I mean, I'm not trying to scare people away from the idea of public service, but I'm trying to be, as open as I possibly can. It's not easy, and it will impact. You have to make a decision, and you have to have that kind of conversation with your family before you make that kind of commitment. Really be consistent and conscious of time management. I mean, being a lawyer is not the easiest thing in the world. And I realized I had to sacrifice somewhat my commitment to the law to balance my responsibilities as an elected official. And that's why it had an impact on, my income, because I recognized I couldn't just do a lot of things, because you have to really commit yourself as a lawyer, because you want to do well, and so you don't want to do anything haphazardly. You want to do the best that you can. And I have the same approach with being an elected official. Anyone that talks about me, they'll tell you that throughout my career as an elected official, they've seen me participate in various events throughout the county. I've always been there. I've always been a responsible person, and people see that, and that's when people reflect and they talk about what was I about. That, I'm telling you, that's what people will say. That, look, this guy is always there. He's committed to the community. It requires balancing and recognizing what potential limitations you may have. But you have to, whether you're a lawyer or an elected official, you have to have a commitment to it. And first and foremost, because mediums such as that were non-existent when I was growing up, there was more of a focus on, okay, depending on your career path, you either you went to college, you went through a process where once you graduated from college, then you got a job, or if you were committed to being like a carpenter or a plumber, I mean, you went through that type of training. There were very few opportunities for you to actually learn as you were building your education and to actually enhance your knowledge. So having that type of platform I think is immeasurable to the potential success of any individual. Just as someone just looking in hindsight, I realized I could have learned a lot more by having mentors, someone that I could talk to, someone that was real, that I could talk to about being a lawyer. When I was growing up, there weren't any role models. I had a concept in my mind that I think I want to be a lawyer, but there were no lawyers, certainly in Charles County at that time, that looked like me, that I could say, wow, I want to be like this person. And I think, again, through a platform like that, you see real people, and these real people have an interest in mentoring and showing you a path, and perhaps answering questions that you didn't even consider. So that would be my thoughts on why it's important. Trust me, you will find virtually every conceivable way to contact me. My website for my law firm is dcmdlawyers.com, dcmdlawyers.com. Again, anything with Charles County government, you will have access to directly speak to me in some capacity. And I can tell you, if you want to meet with me directly, my doors are open, again, that's another thing that people will say about me. I am very accessible, and I actually encourage and look forward to the opportunity to speak to young people. 15 years ago, or younger self, I kind of mentioned it earlier, to find an area of expertise with the law and to really just grow and build and become an expert in that area. And the second thing, and this is probably more associated with being a public servant, recognizing that, the moment you have is the moment that you're living in. And you can't think in terms of, okay, I'm anticipating what things will look like, and if I make this decision, it may hurt my prospects of being reelected. I mean, you have to live in the moment that you're in right now and just let the chips fall where they may. And I think as I've matured, I've come to appreciate how important that is. And I think my decision making has become easier because I'm not thinking, okay, what could possibly happen. What I do know is what is in front of me, and that makes you a better decision maker.
For people my age, 17, 18, 19, and people getting into the workforce, people graduating, that transitional period in life, what advice would you give them for what's ahead, what's to come, and really what to expect?
Expect the unexpected, and be willing to pivot if your original plans do not work out. You have to be resilient, because life is going to hit you in all forms. You can have the best plan on earth. You're going to be challenged to some degree, and you have to prepare yourself for that. That's the best advice I can give you. I wish I had understood that you have to be willing to pivot. That doesn't mean like, okay, change, have a goal, and I'm not saying, okay, something went wrong and I'm just going to change everything. I don't mean that. I'm saying be prepared to pivot. So if you're taking one approach, be willing to kind of alter, the direction that you're going, still maintaining the goal that you have in place, but not getting so tied into, well, I tried this door and that door was closed. I mean, there are 10 other doors that you can go through. Mm-hmm. Have that kind of mindset. That's you're hearing maturity, and really anyone that has lived any type of life will tell you the same thing.
Okay, thank you.
Most valuable commodity I know of is information. Wouldn't you agree?
I don't even know what that means.
No one knows what it means, but it's provocative.
No, it's not.
It gets the people going. No!
It's your boy JR dropping them beats.
FunctionalTrainingZone.net